Greetings, I'm Uncle back in Romania, Proscriptor. How are you?
Very well, very prosperous, thank you very much.
Actually back here after 4 years, if I'm not wrong, in the same place.
Correct.
And now you are touring with Hate and Nargaroth. How is to be touring with these two bands?
Very excellent, very prosperous. This is the third show on the tour excursion, and both bands are very excellent to tour with, and the chemistry is cascading very smoothly, so we're glad to be back in Bucharest for a second time for Absu.
And how was the last night audience in Cluj-Napoca?
It was very good. Very good. First time to play in that particular city in Romania, and it was maniacally crazy, so very good.
So I'm sure tonight, after being back here, will be a blast again.
Yes.
Okay, now let's talk a bit about that. You haven't released a new album since 2011.
Yes, that's correct.
So when do you expect the new Apsu album?
At the end of this year, 2017, the next album, which is titled Apsu, A-P-S-U, which is the Sumerian spelling of the band moniker, which started the recording process 2 years ago in 2015. There have been some personal obstacles within my existence, but the album is almost complete. All the elements for completion are the tracking of the vocals and the mix, and so we should see a release at the end of this year on Spine Farm Records. We used to be affiliated with Candlelight Records, but they were recently acquired by Spine Farm, based out of Finland, so that's the proposed release date.
Yeah, but you actually released a single last year, or no, 2 years ago, I think.
Yes.
And then you have from last year a compilation, if I'm not wrong.
We did release a single called Telepaths Within Nenadine. As far as a compilation, I'm not exactly sure about that, but right now, like I said, we are anticipating the release of the new album at the end of this year, but also with the 6-year delay, we have been touring extensively for this last album, and so I think that's something that's been long overdue for Absu, and yeah, like I said, a lot of touring has been occurring.
Yeah. You had a break in 2003, and then you got back on stage in 2006 or 7.
7.
And right then you had some lineup changes.
Yes.
Actually, Absu and Vice joined the band. And how was to play with the new lineup? Was it difficult not playing with the old lineup?
Well, with the old lineup consisting of Shaftiel, Equitan, and myself, we actually brought the alchemical magic and mystery of Absu's creation, and we all decided to walk on our separate pathways, so there was a hiatus of the band from 2003 to 2007. Then when the band was resurrected in 2007, there were different members in the band, so the finalized lineup now is myself, Vishkram, Izizu, and Apsu actually has a fourth member now, whose name is Drekavats, and he is the second drummer in the band. So when I say second drummer, it's the three of us doing projecting the studio work, but in a live atmosphere, I still am playing drums and singing simultaneously. As the encore of the set, Drekavats gets behind the kit while I execute vocals alone as a frontman. So this is a new aesthetic strategy that we have been projecting ever since 2013, and it's been a grand success.
Yeah, I actually wanted to ask you, how can you handle drumming and same time singing?
It's quite easy. I think since I am the lyricist behind the band, I make sure that the lyrical patterns follow the percussive patterns, so it makes it rather easy to sing and play drums simultaneously, so there are no obstacles whatsoever.
Was it your decision to not having a drummer, or you didn't find a proper drummer to fit in Apsu?
It just kind of fell into my hands on a magical basis, and he was definitely the right candidate for the job.
After this tour, will you do, I don't know, summer festivals
Yes.
all over the Europe?
So after this tour, we come back to Europe in July to play a lot of festivals, and in between those weekend festivals, we'll be filling those gaps with extensive dates throughout Europe, Eastern Europe, Poland, and so forth.
Yeah. Also, a USA tour, maybe?
Not until the album's released. So after the tour, the festival tour in July, we are going to hold off playing any performances until the album is officially released.
Yeah. Where would you like to play next? Have you ever been to Asia?
Yes, we actually played Singapore, which was our first opportunity to perform in Asia last October. I will luckily successfully say that Absu has seen a good portion of the globe. That probably our next goal is to play Japan, maybe somewhere in the Middle East. But I will say that we have seen a good portion of the world, so I'm very fortunate about that.
I'd like to ask you about the audience in USA and Europe. What do you consider to be the best one, in USA or in Europe?
Well, if you would have asked me this question 20 years ago, I would have told you easily that Europe dominated not only United States, but North America as a whole. But North America, especially with the United States, has had a very strong and stronger following in the especially the past decade. So I would say that U.S. or North America versus Europe is very equivalent now.
And how do fans are still seeing Apsu in the present?
Well, we do have a lot of our old fans and have made a lot of new ones ever since the band was resurrected in 2007. So it's a nice, broad, widened audience of both old and new fans, which is good.
Yeah. Well, it's good to know that soon we will have a new Apsu release.
Yes.
I can't wait to hear it.
Yes.
I was wondering if you will release something new.
Yes.
And it was my pleasure to have this interview with you and see you to the show. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, and thank you for the interview.